Uh, just shook his hand briefly when he first came to the United States, on his first visit here, right after I was named a bishop. He came here in October of '79 in Chicago. That's where I saw him, in Chicago. Anyway, just, shook his hand. He was passing by, shaking all the bishops' hands. That was the first time. The fact that he was strong and vigorous, and you could tell that he's a person who felt confident of himself, and that he would be a very strong spokesman for the church to the world. There was those very positive impressions, of course. I had many meetings with him that after. It was more when I was the vice president and president of the Bishops' Conference. I would meet him with 2 or 3 times a year. And of course, in his later years, he was very ill, and it was very difficult to understand him because the Parkinson's disease had advanced so much that it affected his speech, and he was very feeble. But he was always very kind and gentle. He was always asked questions about the United States. He was always fascinated with Houston because of the space program in the universities here. He thought he had a great interest in space travel. So he was always interested about Houston. He knew Houston was a big city. The bishops of Texas, gathered, although the Pope would visit San Antonio, we considered it a visit to the whole state. So we collaborated because it was going to be much more expensive than San Antonio would be able to handle by itself. So in one sense, all the dioceses of Texas were sponsoring the Pope's visit here. And Bishop Risotto was chosen to plan the liturgy for that event. And he did a great job. He was not private. I mean, it was not secret, let me say, about his health. It's serious health. He had Parkinson's, and I think the world could see how he was getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and towards the end, he was very bent over, and it was very difficult for him to speak. If you don't recall, the few weeks before he died, he had someone else read all his major talks because he just couldn't. He was losing his vocal power. But Pope John Paul was very, very open, and the world could see and know that he was bearing this illness in a remarkable way before the whole world. And I think giving an example to the world of how we can accept the illnesses that we have and still try to keep going. And the people at his funeral was signed saying "Santo subito," immediately. That was certainly that feeling that he was a very holy man. His sanctity, his holiness was publicly demonstrated to the world during his long papacy. Many things that he did to show his connection with human suffering, the poor, peoples who are usually disregarded and marginalized. He had a special love and concern for. So the fact that there was this request for him to be named a saint began immediately.